Several years ago, I met Michael McDonald at a group coaching event, and I was struck immediately by his manner and his energy. And he's one of those people that you just want to be near, you just want to be around. And over the years, I've followed what he's had to say online, in video, in little snippets, and I've been waiting and waiting and waiting for him to write a book or something, just to bring whatever that wisdom is and that energy that I feel when I'm around him to the world. So I asked him to be on my podcast with actually no agenda of what we're going to talk about. So let me tell you who he is. Michael McDonald is a transformational coach for entrepreneurs and leaders. He calls them quiet giants, which is really cool, and we'll find out about that. He engages life as a gentle warrior philosopher, which is a great description of how I feel when I meet him. He's devoted to bringing more consciousness into leadership and more integrity into transformational work. And he actually does it. You can find those words on everybody's website. And this is a man who is the real deal and walks his talk. Michael helps CEOs, serial entrepreneurs, coaches, business owners make radical changes in their work and their lives, working from the inside out. He is also the creator of something really cool called Relational Alchemy. And he's currently running a program called Masterpiece Day. So we'll find about that. We're in the middle of the coronavirus epidemic. We're also in the middle of civil unrest, Black Lives Matter. We're in the middle of, the perfect storm. So we have no idea where we're going to go. I just want you to get a little bit of Michael McDonald. Michael, thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Awesome to be talking to you today.
It's a little bit like when you introduce someone to a comedian and you go, okay, be funny for them. Right? It's like, here's Michael McDonald. Be spiritual. Be wise. So I'm setting you up a little bit, but the truth is, I think just a conversation with you at this time will be useful to people who are listening.
I'm excited to hear what's going to come out of my mouth as well. I have no idea.
These turn out to be the best shows. So my question for you is, you talk to people all day, and you talk to people about business, you talk about personal relationships, you talk about everything. And one of the things I know about you is you don't really hit the first topic that people are talking about. You generally go underneath to find out what's going on with people. So what are you finding yourself having conversations about these days?
So a lot of what I work with people about like all variety of things, and underneath the surface of it right now, there's a lot more change and uncertainty being revealed. It's becoming more apparent to a lot of the people that I'm working with. And part of it, and like often what I'm helping them realize, is that the certainty that they thought was there, that they were always sort of relying on or always striving towards, was never really as solid as they thought. There's so many people in the world who are oriented towards getting something stable, something that feels safe, and they have lots of ideas about what out there in the world is going to make them feel safe and secure. And one of the things that these current times have done is really illustrates that, no, that isn't the solid ground. Out there is not the solid ground. The great opportunity there is that there is a solid ground that people can find. And sometimes it's a lot easier for people to find that solid ground in the midst of turmoil, when everything is shaken up, when all the systems are falling apart, when there's such inequality, when there's such upset and uproar and health issues and political issues. There's an opportunity still to inquire even deeper towards what is still here, what is still solid, what is reliable amongst all this when everything is falling apart. And that's a beautiful inquiry. It's unfortunate that it has to get so extreme. And I don't think it has to get so extreme, One of the things I do is I try to point this out to people before crises happen in their lives.
Whole point of this podcast is midlife crisis is not inevitable. It's a function of not evolving on our own. So life just smacks us on the ass and goes, let's move a little faster here.
Yeah, like if you're not paying attention, if you're not looking in this direction for long enough, things get more and more dramatic. And that's what we're seeing out in the world. Things have gotten more and more dramatic. And so now there's the opportunity for people to see past this, like either giving up to chaos and just becoming a victim, becoming helpless, or reorienting towards like, oh, actually, I feel called forward to something now. It's like, okay, strip away all the illusions, and this is what still seems real.
It's when I talk to my clients who are like alcoholics and have had hit bottoms and have really had some trouble in their lives, they're like, "Yeah, I got this. I'm cool." It's the people who have, grown up, gone to college, got a job, built a business, right, and they're like, "What's happening here?" I'm like, well, the truth is, it's always been like this. It's just, you've kind of been insulated. So I think there is an acceleration of an evolution here for people like this. They talk about it societally, like where history is moving faster now. The thing, technology is changing faster, society is changing fast, and this is an accelerant. I think it's the same thing for our development. If you choose it to be, you can crumble, or you can kind of look at this anew.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things I've joked about with a couple of my clients recently is the worst, like of all the plans that you have in order to succeed and for that to be your source of safety, the worst thing that could happen is that it works. You actually successfully get the money, get the thing, achieve that, and then relax. Like, okay, cool, I made it. Because you end up even more fragile, even more dependent on that external thing in order to feel okay. You get further away from this truth.
Yeah, we latchkey kids are much more resilient because we had to fend for ourselves. We had the key around our neck when we were 5 years old. It's like, I know how to make my own lunch. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the things that I love encouraging people is contemplation of losing everything. Like that everything that you have could go away. And this, all of what's happening right now, helps reinforce that thinking. There's going to be a lot of people who try to just like stick their head in the ground and wait till it's over, try to get through it. But the people who really face everything that's going on, whether it impacts them or not, but imagine losing everything. Imagine losing everything that you think brings you security and good. Imagine like contemplating your own death is a great, both spiritual and practical practice. It's a great focuser for what's actually important.
How do you do?
You're going to die
How do you take
someday.
people through that? So someone comes to you and they say, "God, I'm just afraid of losing everything I have. It really looks like the business is tanking, and I just don't know what I'm going to do." Now, tell me how you kind of navigate them through that.
First impulse that comes to mind, not necessarily the thing I would do, but in this moment, have them really imagine it. Chances are, if someone is afraid of something happening, they haven't actually engaged the possibility yet. They're afraid of imagining what might happen. So it just becomes this blank, this nightmarish, I don't know, I can't even look there. So actually, one of the things I'll sometimes do is help them actually look there. What if you were homeless? What if you were subject to like violence, discrimination? Like, what if this happened to you? What if you lost your loved one or all of your loved ones? And actually imagine it, actually go there. Like, go there in your imagination without having to go there in your life. This doesn't imply any particular response or strategy or action. But if you can find the place where that can happen and there's still a fundamental okayness, suddenly you have solid ground from which whatever you choose to do from there is going to be so much more wise. It's going to be so much more creative. You're going to come from a place where you have peace, even if you're feeling upset. There's still a peace underneath that.
Why would a process like that uh, actually help you in the present be more grounded?
It helps you find that sense of security that doesn't go away, even in the worst circumstances that you can imagine. And actually, there's a story that I'm reminded of. I heard from Bill Pettit. Um, let's see if I can glance at a note for that so I can be accurate about it. Yeah, so this is from a book called Return from Tomorrow, which points in this
Which
direction.
most of us need to do.
Yeah, it's like, come back. It's like, that's not a place. there's no such thing as tomorrow. But so this was back when the Nazi concentration camps were being liberated. So this is an account from a personnel man who is freeing people from Auschwitz. And so everyone there was in horrible health, emaciated, and almost everyone was also dead at an emotional, mental, and soul level. But there is this one group of people. They were still health-wise horrible, but they had an aliveness about them. There is still soul there. They were cracking jokes with each other. And so this personnel man asked them, like, what's going on here? What's different about this group of people compared to everyone else in this camp? And all of them refer to, there's this one man within their group who they credit with bringing this soul into the group. And the guy was nicknamed Wild Bill. The English equivalent of his name was William. So this is like Wild Bill. And his story is when the Germans came to his village, they lined up everyone in his village, and he was kept aside. He had used to them. I think he had multiple languages or something, so he was able to interpret. So like he was okay. Everyone else in his village, including his wife and his 4 little boys, were all lined up and all machine gunned down. And he witnessed this. So this was a man who usually didn't have much anger in him, but when he had that experience, he was filled with such anger and rage and hatred. It consumed his entire being. And he also, like, as that happened, he recognized that the anger that he was feeling was the same anger that just killed his family. And he made a choice that he was not going to give into that process, give into that force. He made a choice to come from love and peace. And that's what he brought into the camp. That's what brought this aliveness to this group around him. Like, yes, horrible things happen. And we always have a choice for where we come from. Like, where he comes from is where I'm pointing people towards. And hopefully they don't need to experience such terrible things to hit rock bottom and have that turnaround. Hopefully they can recognize that it's always there. And it comes from looking within rather than your experience being dictated by the outside world.
I always talk about Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning for the same type of conversation. And this one, I've never heard this one before. And I'm having trouble responding to it because, I'm a Jew and, like the whole thing is visceral for me. Tell me the name of the book again so that I can put that in the show notes.
Return from Tomorrow.
By who?
I'm not sure of the author's name.
I will find that and I'll put it in the show notes. So we won't worry about that. And,
Yeah.
that's interesting because it's the conversation that I have for me when I was suicidal, when I was broken, when everything I had was gone and I just did not want to go on. And I read something in Pema Chodron that said we have a choice. When life happens to us, we can either harden or we can soften. And I remember making the conscious choice to break my heart open instead of harden. I had children, and if I didn't have children, I don't know what choice I would have made, but I had children, and I just knew, one, I couldn't die, and two, I could not get bitter. And I credit, again, crisis, with breaking my heart open and changing everything. And I don't want people to have to go through that, but I also don't want to deny people that opportunity, right? To hit that rock bottom, to find out when you lose absolutely everything, they can't take anything from you anymore. And that's where life begins. So now
Yeah.
everything's play now.
It's beautiful. It becomes a gift.
In
These horrible
hindsight.
experiences. In hindsight. Yeah, totally.
So
It's
2020,
also
everybody's like 2020, maybe an asteroid, maybe this is horrible. And 5 years from now, I do hope that we're like, wow, that was the beginning of a renewal, right? We can't say it in the middle of it, but hopefully we get to go, this was the beginning of a renewal, individually and collectively.
Well, I think it's available to us in any moment for anything that's going on. That we can say it's a renewal right now. It's a glorious gift right now. And it's often the kind of gift that you wouldn't wish on your stuff. How's
Hold on,
our internet connection at the moment?
you lost for a second. So it's the kind of gift, what?
It's the kind of gift that you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy.
Well, there's a Jewish saying where if someone's going through something, you don't tell them it's for the good. You don't tell them it's going to be great. There's a silver lining. You do that for yourself, but for them, it's like, I'm here for you. This is horrible, like, and then later on is when is the time. So it really is. The timing is everything when it is these conversations.
Yeah, it's like this is what you see after you get past it. Like after you move through it, get the gift from it, or make another choice. Then it's like, oh, actually, that was beautiful. That was the perfect thing to have happened. During it, though, it just sucks. And one of the things that I've been learning, especially over the last year, is deeper levels of how to acknowledge acknowledge people's experience. That when you're in it, it doesn't seem like there's a choice. When you're in it, it just seems horrible. When you're in it, it seems like the most rational, practical thing in the world to react in a certain way, or to say like, okay, yeah, I get all that, and I get the spiritual thing, and I get that everyone's okay, but this is horrible. But this particular time, this is really bad. And there's the innocence of that. One of my favorite phrases that's been guiding me and in my coaching work over the last year is real but not true. It was coined.
Keep going there. I
Have you
love
heard
that.
Yeah.
No, I've never heard that. I love it.
Yeah,
Keep
it was
going.
coined by Sokni Rinpoche in a book that he wrote a while ago. And I think it's Tara Brach, or I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, who's been popularizing it, but I'm just familiar with the original source. And it's that distinction of our experience, like what's going on here, the way the world looks, that the matrix, the movie, the Maya that we're within is completely convincing and needs to be honored. And it's not that we can somehow turn that off. And it's not that we can somehow just swap that in for a better reality. It's not about getting better thinking. It's not about getting rid of our thinking. A big part of this is honoring that our thinking is is our experience. Our thinking by its nature feels real. When you're really triggered, that's your reality. So it's honoring the experience. That's the real aspect. and
Our, our mutual
that's never
friend,
going away.
our mutual friend Harry Pickens, uh, just wrote on Facebook to our community of coaches and spiritual leaders and all that. It's like, please stop saying that this is not real. Like, please stop saying that we're all one and racism doesn't exist. And so, like, please stop saying that. It is not helping anybody. Yes, we are all one. It's not helping this experience right now. And you just so eloquently brought it down to its essence. And I love that as a guiding principle, to know the difference. Like the one everybody probably knows is, I'm in the world but not of it, right? But
Mm-hmm.
this is real. It's not true. There is an ultimate truth, but this right here, this visceral thing, it's all we got to play with.
Mm-hmm. Like, it's accurate to say that we're all one. It's accurate to say that, like, this is an illusion and this is illusion and it's just a process and this is a gift, but it's not helpful. It's not helpful until you see it. Then it's sort of, that just is verifying once you've transcended. It's like, oh yeah, that was the cloud, that was the dream that you were in.
Well, let's go back to Wild Bill, right? Wild Bill just didn't go, we're one, it's the same anger. He had the realization so that his experience was different. He experienced, someone didn't intellectually say, that's the same anger that killed your kid, wife and kids is the same anger that's in you. Oh, okay, I'm good now. He had that experience and chose to let it go. So it's a very, very different. I'm really moved by that.
Yeah. And it's also reminding me, there's like two different places you can come from when you're speaking to the truth. Like, we'll take, like, just everything is one as sort of a generic truth. If you're just coming from concept and you're just telling someone, especially if they're in a disturbed state, if you're just telling someone from concept that they're all one, chances are you're the one who's, like, in denial about something and there's something going on there. It's like, you need to get some help. It's like, but it's all one. You're probably have
That's the whole point
some
of
of
Harry's
that process
post. Yeah.
hidden down in. It's like, I'm just not okay with people feeling this way. It's like, just get them to believe that they're all one so that I don't need to feel bad when they're feeling that. It's like, okay, that's a problem. When you're speaking from, like, really knowing that we're all one, there will also be a compassion and understanding for people having various experiences that will be felt, even while you might be saying something that's conceptually the opposite of what they're experiencing. Like, you can tell someone when they're in the midst of, oh my God, my life is over, everything is ruined. You can tell them, coming from this place, that you're going to be okay. And it lands because it's not a rejection of their reality. It's not a rejection of their experience. It's like, yes, you are totally experiencing all of that. That is your world. That is what's going on in like, that's totally true for you. And there's even more that's true. Like, just yes, and, rather than, it's like, you're wrong and I want you to think this other thing instead so I can maintain my peace.
I have this conversation over and over again. For some reason, I attract a lot of men who are going through divorce. And I attract men who are, maybe that's why they want to coach, is because they're going through really messy, vitriolic divorces and the kids are in the middle of it and it's just messy. And I often find myself just looking at them just, so intently and going, you won't believe me, but I promise you it's going to be different. You won't believe it hurts like a knife in your chest that your kids hate you and that that your spouse is turning them against you and all that. I promise you, if you stay steadfast, if you stay on this path, if you show up for your kids, no matter how they are, they will know who loves them. They will know who you are. I promise you. How do I know that? I've been through it and I've walked so many other people through it, but I know you won't believe me, right? Like, that whole conversation is always happening.
Yeah, like, I have the advantage of working with people for longer periods of time, so I get to sprinkle in the various bits of truth which they don't believe and they sort of block out, or they sort of take it with a grain of salt. It's like, okay, Michael's just being weird and spiritual. It's like, that was a weird way to phrase that, but okay. And then months later, they're like, oh my God, this is that thing you've been saying this whole time.
That's beautiful.
And suddenly it makes sense.
Cool. So thank you. This is so healing. I am actually going to turn this around really quickly so that people can listen to it while we're in the middle of this just stressful time. Tell me about what Masterpiece Days are.
So Masterpiece Days, actually what Masterpiece Days are, or what the program is.
You can do a shameless plug, or you can tell, like, what's the whole premise of Masterpiece Days? Because I'm sure you're going to run the program again for people.
Yeah. So Masterpiece Days is a group program that I'm currently running. So I might run it again in 2021. And it comes from the John Wooden quote of make each day your masterpiece. I consider it the fundamentals course. This is the basics of morning routines and health and habits. And the foundation of Masterpiece Days is my approach to gentle discipline. When most people approach trying to get their life in order, when they're trying to change their habits, when they're trying to get healthy, for some reason, people think that they need to beat themselves into submission and to use heroic amounts of willpower.
It's so effective.
No, it doesn't work that way. Like, it's because it sounds impressive and we think that it needs to be a hero's journey to start meditating in the morning. But honestly, when you take that approach, you just immediately fall off the cliff, or you're able to do it for a while until you just run out of willpower because you burn yourself out really easily. All that shame, like shame demotivates us. It stops us in our tracks. Sometimes it can be used to stop a bad activity temporarily, but it's horrible for designing the life of your dreams because you'll at best feel relieved, but most of the time you'll just feel horrible about yourself. So gentle discipline is that realization of, like, if you just do little things, like drop by drop, bit by bit. Sometimes exercise starts with 1 push-up per day. You can actually have a great deal of momentum. Amazing things become possible.
Mm.
And like last year, I'd never done a single burpee. I'd never run an obstacle course race, but I was scheduled in December to run my first Spartan race. So starting last year, I started doing burpees throughout the year. Now I do 100 or more burpees every single day. And it's just easy now. It was something that sounded totally intimidating and weird and astronomical last year. So it's making habit change easy by engaging like different mindsets, a much gentler mindset around everything. And the group program is like, you need to do this in a group. You need to do this with support, other people who have similar challenges, celebrating wins together. And it's a lot of fun, has been incredibly effective. I've had people's spouses thank me for the program, like, which is my new metric for like whether I'm really doing good. If the spouse thanks me, that means it's actually working. They're not just being nice to me, or they're just not saying that it's working. It's
isn't that great when you hear from like someone in the company, like, you really did wonders with our president. I really appreciate that. It's like, yes.
Yeah,
So,
like that's my favorite.
my hope is, I'm going to put information about this in the show notes. My hope is lots and lots and lots of people listen to this show. So I'm hoping that you get overwhelmed with requests so that you have to do another one in late 2020, just because you have so much demand. So that's my thing. And only because I'm so fascinated by it is, tell me what relational alchemy is.
So relational alchemy, it's an evolution of authentic relating work, which is my original background in coaching. I did lots of circling and authentic relating work. Relational alchemy, it's been an exploration of what creates intimacy and what gets in the way of intimacy. And it primarily arose through leading relational events. So lots of sentence stems, lots of eye gazing, lots of that kind of work. And it's synergized with a lot of my realizations within the 3 principles world as well. So my new definition of intimacy in the relational alchemy world is intimacy is what naturally arises between two people when they don't have much on their mind and they're just being with each other.
Mm.
Like that's the feeling that we crave. And it's actually the most natural thing in the world when we're not trying to construct it, when we're not trying to do things that we think will get us to intimacy. It naturally arises between people. And that foundation, that's the foundation for everything within a relationship, within connection. So a lot of it's just what gets in the way of connection, which is really overthinking it. It's projection. It's thinking that it's making assumptions about the other person. So a lot of relational alchemy is actually setting rules about what you can't talk about, or sometimes not letting people talk for a while, helping people get into their body. And it's when you get much simpler, when you say, I feel sad, instead of I feel sad because such and I have this request for you to do this thing because I think that you're making me sad. If it's just like, oh, I just feel, suddenly you feel closer to the other person.
It's yeah. Everything that you do, everything that you touch. Are you going to write that book that I keep asking for?
Part of it is like, I don't know which book to write. There's at
Mm.
least a dozen books in me for these different topics.
Cool, because as soon as I press pause on this recording, I have a little coaching for you that I'm going to help you with that. Because a lot of my guests have written books after they've talked to me, and then they come back later and say thank you for that little push on writing that book. Um, so really, thank you for providing just so much healing in this conversation. I knew if I just brought you on and we just talked that you would make a huge impact, because that's all you ever do when you walk into a room. So thank you for
Yeah.
being here.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure.
So I'm going to put all of Michael's contact information and information on his programs so that you can follow him. Follow him on social media. He just drops wisdom like it's nothing, and it's just so profound. So again, thank you for being here, Michael.
Yeah, thank
To
you.
everybody else, if you like the show, please share it. Please rate it. We love that kind of thing. I always feel dirty and kind of weird to ask you to help me get the word out on this, but as you know, you're my listeners. I bring just the most incredible people here, so please help. I love you guys. Have a great rest of the day. Be really, really, really kind to yourself and everybody else.